Hi everyone, welcome to this video. In this tutorial, we're gonna go ahead and build our WhatsApp clone application. So you already know how to implement the sign up and the login activity. So here it is, the sign up activity, and if I click on login, you should see the login activity. But here, I don't want the user to click on this back button of the device and then transition to the sign up activity, for example. So here you can see that I am inside the login activity, and if I click on back, you can see that the application is closed. So if I open it again, now you can see that the sign up activity is open. This means that the application was completely closed and then we are starting from new. So that is one feature that I want you to add to your application. We want only the sign up and the login button to work. And if the user clicks on the back button, we want the application to be closed. Next, here you can see that we have the login activity. And again, you already know how to implement the login functionality. So make sure to create a Parse server app and then connect your application to your Parse app. And then just implement the sign up and login activities. So here I'm gonna sign up as a user. So here I'm gonna say, for example, Morteza @example.com. And then here I'm gonna say that the username is going to be, for example, Mori, and the password 123. So if I go ahead and click on sign up, now we should be signed up to the application, and here it is, the activity that is going to show the users of the WhatsApp clone app. So these are the users that are already signed up. And here we have this login button. If I click on this login button, this menu icon, or menu item actually, you can see that it is showing us a toast message that says Mori is logged out. So this is another feature that I want you to implement in your application. So let me go ahead and sign up again. So Morteza @example.com, and the password is 123. Let me click on login. So here you can see that because I used capital M for the email, here I need to also use capital M for the email here. So I'm going to click on login again. Now we are logged in as Mori. So here you can see that these are the users. But if another user signs up to the application, I want the user to pull in order to refresh this activity and see the new user that is already signed up. We don't want the user to just close the application and then open it again in order to see the updated users. I'm gonna pull to refresh, and now you can see that because there are no users already signed up, we cannot see, there is no user here. But let's go to the server and let me show you that how this functionality works. So here, this is my Parse app. You can see WhatsApp clone, and then this is the user class. I'm gonna add a new row or a new user to my user class. So I'm gonna click on add row. First, I need to specify the username. So the username is going to be Michael, and then the password is going to be 123. And the email is going to be michael@example.com. Okay, so next I'm gonna press an enter key on my keyboard. So let me write it again. Sometimes this happens and your value might not be submitted properly. michael@example.com. So now it is submitted and the user is updated. Now let me show you the emulator. So if I go ahead and pull to refresh, let's see what happens. So now we can see that Michael is added to the list of users. So this is another functionality that I want you to go ahead and search online and find a solution to this problem. I want you to implement this feature, and you don't have to actually implement this feature. I want you to just try, do your best, and see whether you can add this functionality to your application or not. When you are done with this challenge, just continue watching this tutorial and see how I am going to implement this feature, how I am going to solve this problem. So good luck. So first, let me show you the sign up and the login activity. And here, let's go to the main activity class. So here you can see that when I want to transition to the login activity, here I have created an intent object So the current activity and the target activity, and then I am starting this activity, this intent, and then I am calling the finish method to finish the current activity. Okay, because I want, when the user transitions to the login activity, I want the main activity to be gone. So when the user clicks on the sign up button inside the login activity, then the user would be able to go back to the sign up activity. So that's why I am calling the finish method here. So next, let me show you the login activity here. So you can see that when I click on the sign up button inside the login activity, again, I am calling the finish method here. But first, I am transitioning the user to the sign up activity, to the main activity actually. So this is how the sign up and main activity or the login activity works. And you should already be able to implement these features. If not, you can check out the Instagram clone application of the course. Now, let's go to the WhatsApp users activity here. Let me close these other activities. First, let me show you the XML file. So you should be able to transition to the WhatsApp users activity from the sign up and the login activities. So when the user signs up or logs into the application, we want the user to be transitioned to the WhatsApp users activity. So first, let me show you the log out feature, the log out button functionality. So let me go to this Java class. First, you can see that we have this onCreate options menu in order to inflate the menu on our action bar. So when this item, the menu, is selected, when this logout item is selected, we want to show a fancy toast message to the user first, and we are going to say that the current user is logged out. Okay? And then, so if you don't have the fancy toast library in your project, you can go ahead and add it. You can also use the regular toast object of Android. And then here you can see the logout functionality. So I want the current user of parts to be logged out in the background. So when the logout process is finished, here inside this done method, we are going to transition the current user to the for example, sign up activity, to the main activity, as you can see here. But here, first, I need to make sure that there is no error. So that's why I need to say if E is equal to null, and then I am going to transition the user to the sign up activity or the main activity. So this is the log out functionality here. And then let's go ahead and see what we have here inside the onCreate method. So first, we want to get the users, we want to create a query, and we want to get the WhatsApp users and show them on a list view. So if I go ahead and switch to the XML code of this activity, of this layout, you can see that the root layout is linear layout. So make sure that you have the root layout to be linear layout, not the constraint layout here. And then here you can see that inside this linear layout, so for now, just ignore this swipe container. You can see that inside this linear layout, we have this list view. And then if I select this list view, you can see the ID is list view. And inside this activity, first, let me show you that we are creating a list view object and then an array list and an adapter. This is just a regular adapter that we are going to use. And then here we have this, for example, this try block that we are going to use in order to get the users, in order to create a query and get the users from the server. So again, you already know how this works. So here we are simply creating a parse query object, and then we are creating a condition, and we don't want to see the current user username on the list view, and then we are getting the objects in the background. So we have this done method, we get objects as a list, and here we are actually making sure that if the size of the objects is greater than 0 and there is no error, then we are going to get the objects and add them one by one to this array list, WA or WhatsApp users array list. And then after this for loop, we are going to set the adapter of this list view to be the adapter that we created here, as you can see here. So you can see that I am using the simple list item, and then I am referring to this array list. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, if I go ahead and log into the application, so for example, here I need to enter the email, michael@example.com, and the password 123. So if I go ahead and click on log in, we should be logged into the application. It says Michael is logged in successfully. So here you can see the users of the app. So inside the onCreate method, you can just go ahead and create a query and get the users. And that's simple. So now we are going to get to the main point of this lecture, the pull to refresh feature. This is a very important feature. Your Instagram app, your Twitter clone app, all of your social media apps should have this feature, okay? Let's see how it works. First, in order to add the pull to refresh feature, first we need to go to our layout, the XML file, and then let me switch to the text tab because here it is much more simpler. You can see that we have a new tag here inside my linear layout. I have this one, android.support.v4.widget.swipe refresh layout. The idea of this layout is @ID/swipe container. The width is match parent and the height is match parent. So notice that I have put this list view inside this swipe refresh layout. So you can see that I have not specified this swipe refresh layout to be self-closed. This tag is not self-closed. We have actually an ending tag here before this linear layout ending tag. So this means that our list view is inside of this swipe refresh layout. So here you can see the attributes of this list view and the attributes of this swipe refresh layout. Now that we specified this layout, now we can go into our Java file, the WhatsApp users activity class. First, let me tell you that I have specified this swipe refresh layout here inside this onCreate method. I have initialized it, and then I said find view by ID, r.id.swipe container, like any other UI components that we declare inside the Java class. Next, so here first, let me tell you that the reason that I have put the parse query codes inside the try block is that, for example, if the user signs up to the application, and you can see that as soon as the user signs up to the application, the user is going to be transitioned to this WhatsApp users activity. And inside the onCreate method of this activity, we are going to create a query from the parse users. We want to get the parse users from the server. And if there is no other parse user signed up to the application, and here we try to get a query, our application is going to crash. That's why it's very important that you put the parse query codes inside the try catch block. Okay, so here, that's it. Now, after this try block, first let me show you this one. Here I am referring to this mySwipeRefresh layout variable that I created above inside this onCreate method, mySwipeRefresh layout. And then here I am saying that's dot set on refresh listener. So here we have this refresh listener, and here we want to listen to the pull to refresh here. So as soon as I pull to the bottom here, I want to listen to this change. So that's why here I am saying that set on refresh listener new swipe refresh layout dot on refresh listener. And then here you should already know that how this works. Here we are simply creating an anonymous inner class that is going to implement this on refresh listener interface. So that's why this anonymous inner class must implement this on refresh method. This is an abstract method. So inside this on refresh method, here we are going to be notified when the user has pulled to refresh. So when the user does this, this on refresh method is going to be called. So this is the exact place that I want to get the users, the new users that have signed up to the application. So again, we have the try block. Sometimes it can go wrong. Sometimes we don't have any users. So that's why it's very important that we have the try block. So let me delete some empty space here. Inside this try block, notice that we have a try catch statement actually. When you create a try, and then make sure that after the ending curly brace of this try block, you have the catch statement also. Inside this try block, first let's see what we have here. Again, we are going to create a parse query of parse users. So parse user.getQuery. And then first we have a condition here. Let's see what is the first condition. Take a look at this line of code here. Don't worry about the other lines of code. For now, just focus on the line of code that I am showing to you. In line number 68, parse query dot where not equal to username parse user.getCurrentUser.getUsername. So you already know what this means. We don't want to get the current parse user and show it on the list view. That's why we have this condition. We have another condition here. Parse query dot where not contained in username WhatsApp users array list. So what does this line of code mean? This means that we don't want to get the users that are already inside of this array list. So for example, let me show you this activity. Here you can see that we have all of these users. These users are first added to our array list, and then we are showing them on our list view. This list view is being populated by getting the data from the array list. And then the adapter object that we created above is responsible to get the data from the array list and show it on the view. So here we are simply saying that we don't want to get the users that are already inside of this array list. If there is any new user, just give us that user. We don't want to get the old users that are already in the list view. This condition does exactly the same. So if I go ahead and if I comment out this line of code, and if I run a project, let's see what happens. So now it's going to give us the users from the server. So now I'm going to pull to refresh. Let's see what happens. So now we can see that the same users are added to the list view, right? So that's why it's very important that we add this line of code here. So let me uncomment it and then run the project again. So we have the updated application. Next, we are going to simply get the objects in the background. So parse query dot find in background, we have the find callback, and then we have this done method. So inside this done method here, first we are going to make sure that the size of the objects that we are going to get from the server is greater than 0. Okay, so sometimes there are no new users. So for example, here these are the users of the application, and there is no other user that has signed up to the application. So if I go ahead and just try to pull to refresh, we should not get any other users. And this process, the refresh process, should be finished. So if the objects.size is not greater than 0, then this means that this condition evaluates to false. So now we need to go to the ending curly brace of this if statement here. And here I have this else if. I have this else statement. Inside this else statement, we have this if statement. We are saying that if the my swipe refresh layout that is refreshing, this means that here we have tried to refresh this activity, this layout, and it is still refreshing. If that is the case, go ahead and say my swipe refresh layout dot set refreshing false. We don't want the refreshing to continue, okay, if the object's dot size is not greater than 0. So now here inside this if statement, we have this if statement. Here we are saying that if the error is equal to null, there is no error, we can go inside this if statement and create a for loop in order to get the users one by one and add them, or add the username of each user to our array list. And then we are going to say adapter.notify dataset changed. So this method is going to notify the list view that the data is changed. Some new data are added to the array list, and go ahead, just update the list view and show the updated data to the user. So that's what this notify data set changed really does. We call this method on the adapter object. And then we have this if statement. Again, after getting the data and updating the list view, we don't want this refresh process to continue. So that's why we are going to say if the MySwipe refresh layout that is refreshing, go ahead and set the refreshing to false. We don't want to continue to see this refreshing process because we have already got the data. The list view is already updated. That's it. And here we have this else statement that I have already talked about. And here it is, the catch block of the try block. So hopefully that makes sense. So this is what we need to implement inside this activity. So in the next tutorial, we're gonna go ahead and implement the chat functionality. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.